Yeah, they may have a, oh, by the way, but it's maybe a little too early yet. So remember, it's okay. So here's a test, right? Once a teacher, always teacher. Who remembers when we're supposed to actually get the flu shot? All right, Judy and Jen.
To start recording and do the intro. On behalf of Access to Integrative Medicine Health Institute and the GW Office of Integrative Medicine and Health, welcome to a Mindfulness Experience. AIM is a nonprofit organization with a mission to provide vulnerable and low-income communities with access to whole person health and wellness. The office educates health professionals and healthcare consumers about integrative medicine. Today we have with us Najma Kurami, MPH, who is the founder of the Gratitude Circle app and lifestyle platform. She'll be accompanied by Dr. Eileen Yeager, who's a pediatrician and clinical professor emerita of pediatrics at the University of Colorado School of Medicine. Now, Misha, do you want to take things back over and to see if anybody had any COVID questions, or is it all flu all the time?
No, sure. Let's do quick questions. I'm gonna, since we're re-recording, I'm just gonna share the screen and show everybody what we're talking about, which is, again, this chart. We talked today briefly about the different vaccines for flu this year. And for anybody over 65, my recommendation to get either Fluzone High Dose or Fluad, because they're single dose, mercury-free, and designed for 65 plus. And that's where I'm going to stop this, and we'll go back to questions. Al pointed out that there is a website specifically vaccine.gov. I'm presuming it's a .gov, so I'm presuming it's a reliable, trustworthy website if you need to figure out whether particular vaccine contain eggs or not. So thank you so much for that. And let's do maybe 1 or 2 minutes on questions on COVID. I don't actually have any specific COVID updates per se, although I will tell you, we're still seeing a lot of illness going around. Just yesterday, I had one of my old-time patients come down with it. We're in the thick of it, even though the numbers, according to CDC, are rapidly declining. I'm not sure how they're getting that information. I have a bad feeling that people just stop caring and they're not testing. So they're testing and doing a home test, and then they're not doing confirmation tests. If that happens, that person does not end up in the standard reportings by the CDC. So they get left out, and that may be why we're seeing quote unquote decrease, but I'm not sure we actually do. So COVID question, apparently cases are rising. That's exactly what I'm saying. I actually don't think that we're dropping. I think we are about to start going into the same situation that we had last year, which is somewhere in October and November, we start having another peak. So I think we should start mentally, most of all, preparing ourselves for that. So, yeah. And again, all of this is a compliments for Cecile for finding this, drawing my attention to it. I kind of always glance over flu vaccines because not my favorite topic. Vaccines are not my favorite topic to begin.
So if anybody can find a credible resource where they do an egg, not egg trace breakdown, we would appreciate it. And if you shared it with us so we could share it with the rest of the group. But this is for next week, since, you know, flu season really hasn't even started.
And we should move on because it's 2:15. I'm cognizant.
Oh, okay, cool.
Let's hand it off to our, who's goes next? Eileen or our...
Next will be our Gratitude Circle guest, who will be coming to us via video.
Was a graduate of GW School of Public Health in 2012, and I'm here to share some reasons to be grateful in terms of research and science-backed evidence, as well as self-care strategies. And I'm more than happy to share my books with you all, which I will share in this talk. I am the founder of a startup called Gratitude Circle up there, and so I'm so glad to be able to share this with you. And I'll go ahead and introduce a little bit more of myself with the slides, but that's just a short intro. Okay, so I'd like to talk a little bit about why gratitude matters. So a little story to kick us off. Recently, I mentioned I became an author this year, which is really cool. And I was recently at a Barnes and Noble doing a signing a couple months ago, and the story goes like this. There was a lady who is, kind of passing by, and I noticed that she was smiling, and I was like, okay, wow. And she says, oh, I'm gonna come visit you in just a minute. And I was looking for people to talk to about my books and all of that. I wanted to share it with them. And they knew, at least this lady, I'm assuming she knew that my books were about gratitude and self-care. And so she passes by, she smiles, she says, I'm gonna come talk to you, and I was so happy that she actually acknowledged that. And then a few hours later, I was there for about 3 hours, she walks by again and she's like, oh, I'm gonna come talk to you, don't worry. And she smiled again and she sounded confident in that she would actually come talk to me. And she never actually came. So what the story actually told me was that in terms of what we see about gratitude and self-care, we tend to put it off. And I know for most of us, when we think about self-care or sharing a gratitude practice for ourselves, we think that it can be helpful, and we try to actually make it an objective in our daily routine, but it's very difficult, and sometimes we actually don't get to it, like that lady who wanted to talk to me about it but never did. So in this talk, I want to convince you all to actually use gratitude in your daily lives as well as self-care strategies. It is super important. After COVID, we all know that mental health has taken a toll on our lives because a lot of people have experienced anxiety during this time, depression, etc. A lot of things have come up. Grief, trauma, isolation, loneliness, it's everywhere. So in this talk, I want to share why gratitude and self-care are so important, and a little bit from my books about these as well. My name is Najma again, and I'm the founder of the startup Gratitude Circle. It is actually just won the award for Best Positive Lifestyle Platform in the US for 2022. And I'm so proud of that. As well, I'm a public health expert by background, and I'm also the author of a children's book and a nonfiction self-improvement book called A Spoonful of Gratitude. A little bit more about my books later, and a few excerpts as well. I've made contributions to Psychology Today, Entrepreneur Magazine, Huffington Post, peer-reviewed journals, and much more. And I'm so glad that we just recently launched the Gratitude Circle hotline, thanking frontline workers. And it's going well, you guys. These frontline workers during COVID have tremendously impacted our lives by continuing the daily ins and outs of what we do, including everything from, health services to teachers to grocery store workers. It's everywhere, and I'm trying to desperately thank them. If you guys want to visit the hotline, I'll share more about that in the notes below, so be on the lookout for that, and I hope you can check us out at the hotline. So a little bit about how gratitude fits into mental health, and it's very simple. So in terms of motivation, when we look at gratitude and motivation, it's very interesting because the same region of the brain is activated via motivation and gratitude. So this area, which you may or may not have heard of, is called the medial prefrontal cortex, or MPFC. Now, when they discuss this in the research, you'll see that motivation and gratitude actually stimulate this part of the brain. So we're seeing a lot of overlaps. And if you have more gratitude, the idea is that you'll have more motivation for your daily routines. This is something that we all need, right? Because we're trying to, study, we're trying to work at our jobs. It's so critical, and a lot of people always feel there's a lack of motivation. So if we build in that gratitude mindset, we could definitely actually activate that part of the brain, strengthen that area, so we could actually be more motivated. In terms of gateway to positive feelings, So if you practice gratitude for at least 2 to 8 weeks, and I'll share more about a gratitude practice in a minute, it is likely that you will experience increased positive emotions, including interest, excitement, joy, and pride. So this connects back to this whole gateway notion, which maybe you guys are familiar with, maybe you're not. But when we use gratitude in our minds, this triggers these other positive feelings, which I just explained. And so if you want to increase the positive, be on that plus side versus the minus side, you definitely want to have that gratitude framework in your head. Try to use those gratitude perspectives, really hone in on that, and you'll experience greater positive feelings. And the trick is to practice this for at least 2 to 8 weeks, right? That might be the key for some of you who are thinking, well, how can I actually build this in? And how long do I have to do it, really? So for at least 2 to 8 weeks, use a gratitude practice. And again, I'll share more on the tip on how to do that in a second, or in one of the next slides, but definitely try to keep it up for that 2 to 8 weeks. And you'll notice, a little bit more. Eventually, if it becomes a mindset, you guys will definitely benefit a lot in terms of all the good things that come with gratitude. And there's a whole host of them. Additionally, gratitude helps build good memories. So this is very interesting. I think a lot of us, everyone can relate, because we all have good memories and we also have bad memories. So the bad memories, they tend to stick out, right? Because they have these very vivid moments or vivid snapshots in our minds. And so what gratitude has been shown to do is actually help us rethink or reframe a situation in the past in a more positive light. So when we think about someone who we may have lost, or perhaps maybe some very traumatic event, the loss of a job, etc., we want to reframe this. And with gratitude, fMRI studies show that gratitude strengthens the ability to regulate emotions, specifically focusing on specific emotions to rethink or reframe a situation in a more positive light. So at the same time, that first part, it also helps us focus on specific emotions. We don't always process what we're feeling. So if we use gratitude, we're able to probably focus on what that emotion is at the current time. The amygdala's activity under the limbic system, responsible for processing emotions and memories, seems to be positively impacted. So again, this is based on peer-reviewed research that I have looked at. And so this amygdala, in terms of emotion and memories, when this positive impact comes, we're helping ourselves reframe that trauma, reframe that grief, and actually build not necessarily make those good memories, but make them something more, become less traumatic and more positive. And so that will help us in terms of the future, because we can build more good memories instead of focusing on the past, which a lot of us, we can always do, and that's not helpful. So here's a quote by Jean-Baptiste Masseau, who's a famous deaf educator, and it's very poignant. It says, "Gratitude is the memory of the heart." So when we talk about gratitude, Jean-Baptiste, he's obviously very poignant in describing it, and it really speaks for itself. So gratitude is something that we're still researching, but for centuries, people have understood its significance, and this is one of the ways that it's interpreted by someone who is very famous. So now a little bit about self-care strategies. Now, we talked about the gratitude mindset, which is really important. So with the gratitude mindset, a practice that you guys can actually implement is called the stop, look, go method. So in terms of where I found this, so this is from a TED Talk by a brother, David Steindl-Rast, I believe it was in like 2011, roughly. And so he talks about the stop, look, go method. And what it is basically just in your environment, you want to take a pause, you stop, and then you look around you, and using your senses, you figure out, okay, am I grateful for this pen? Am I grateful for a cup of water? Am I grateful for a book? And you think about why you're grateful for it, and you savor that as you look around. And then you soak it in. That's the gratitude feeling. And then you go with the rest of your day. You just continue onwards. So this stop, let go method is very effective. I have tried it many times. And it just helps soak in that like goodness and that positivity that comes from gratitude. So why is this helpful? Because we're so rushed in our daily lives that we don't actually know how to use gratitude. Maybe a journal sounds too dry or too difficult or too much time. So this stop, let go method takes literally like a minute, and it really, really helps solidify that perspective, that thinking, which we all need. And additionally, if you guys are in nature, which is very critical, if you guys are outside doing a walk or something, and you actually use the stop, let go method, it can actually be even more effective, I would say, because in nature, our senses are heightened. So when the senses are heightened, you actually get more of that. You soak in more of that feeling, I think. And so those senses really respond to the stop, let go method even more, I would say. So that's gratitude mindset. Another key feature is listening to your body, quote unquote. So when we listen to our bodies, what does that mean? We want to do this essentially. We want to feel healthy things, what is good, right? The healthy things, quote unquote. And it really should feel healthy. So with diet, how we consume our media, how we consume our videos, TVs, or how we consume things in general, you kind of have to listen to your body in terms of putting whatever's healthiest into you. So this takes some discipline, but if you actually get the hang of this, which is not that difficult, you'll help yourself with your any weight issues, with sleeping patterns, with exercise, which is the next thing I'll talk about, with relationships, all of these things. When we're more in tune with ourselves, it really helps with self-care. Physical exercise, yes, it definitely helps a lot. Physical exercise is super critical. It's like the grease of the body. When the body is using physical exercise for a practice of self-care, we're actually we're making the body basically function better, like a car. You have the oil, it's functioning better. Without physical exercise and by sitting all day, you guys, I know it sounds difficult to try get out, but if you get out, it will definitely help with self-care, and it has been proven in the research time again. As well, supportive relationships. Supportive relationships means everyone from friends to coworkers to grandparents to anyone in your life, significant other, very much people who we need in our lives in terms of feeling more positive, more able to do things. So self-care strategies circle around supportive relationships or are based on that as well in our lives. And I implore you to actually really consider how you feel supported by other people, and try to invest in those relationships to make them feel more supportive if they're with the right people. Finally, we talked about this a little bit, but again, letting go of the past is very critical, and the gratitude mindset helps with that. And I'll read a little bit more. My book talks about this a little bit more, but we all have this tendency to kind of cling to things that we wanted to go well, we never happened. For a lot of us, things don't go well, most of us. So the way we plan them, at least not go well, but the way we plan them, it doesn't happen. So we got to figure out how to let go of the past. And this gratitude mindset really helps with that, with the reframing in a more positive light. So thank you for GW Integrative Medicine for allowing me to share about gratitude and self-care strategies.
Looks like we lost, or maybe it's ended. So, all right, well, it's 2:30. How about that? Perfect timing. Well, Dr. Yeager, you have plenty of time. Thank you so much for joining us again. You're the regular. We thank you for that. And so, floor is all yours. Eileen, if you end up ending a little earlier, I think that's fine. Unless there is something really burning particular question, we'll want to come back to. Well, actually, there are a couple of questions I see in the chat, so maybe I'll do those and then we'll go straight to you. So there's.
I'll do them now.
Yeah, I'll do them now and then.
Okay.
Yeah, so the BQ11, have not researched that. Okay, so I have not seen that. All right, it's on my to-do list. And here I was hoping that I will have a free long weekend. I guess it ain't happening. It's okay. I will look into that. Should we be concerned about polio and getting that vaccine? I don't think so. I think most of us on this conversation, well, actually, I think it depends on your age. So most of us have been vaccinated. If you have not been vaccinated, I would wait and see what happens. I think both monkeypox and polio seems to be very temporary things, and it doesn't look like it's really spreading out there. So I think with that, let's move to Dr. Jaeger's presentation. Thank you so much.
Okay. Well, thank you for coming, everybody. I have been thinking lately a lot about balance, and that's as the summer turned into fall. You know, there's less light, and the sun goes down earlier and it's coming up later. So the balance of light and dark is different. People start to get into more serious projects usually in the fall. That is, well, kids go back to school, and you know, people who are doing other kinds of work may start things around now. Anyway, so what I thought I would do today is two things. One of them is a breathing practice for balance, and the other one is a nice meditation for balancing between the doing and being modes. So let's start with the breathing. I assume most of you are sitting. It doesn't matter. You could do this standing too, but uncross your legs, put your feet on the floor, and rest your arms either on your lap or on the arm of a chair or on a table or desk or something, but your hands are not going to be clasped. Just have them resting because you're going to be using one of your hands. People throughout history and in every tradition have recognized the value of breath control for calming people down and for making you feel balanced and for reducing pain and reducing stress. So this is an alternate nostril breathing that it's similar to the yoga pranayama, similar to the Sufi kasab, but it's not exactly the same. And it's a very nice, simple practice that you can do anytime, except when you're driving. So I'm going to take my glasses off because what we'll be doing is putting our hand on our nostrils and balancing it up here on the forehead, and then lifting it and breathing through the different sides of the nose. So when you put your fingers on your nose, don't press too hard, because then when you open the nostril, it may not open widely. Just touch it lightly. So put your right thumb on your right nostril and your right fourth finger, your ring finger, on your left nostril. And the second and third fingers, balance them up here on your forehead in between your eyebrows. So if you're going to open up your left nostril, you lift up your ring finger, keeping the right one still on the right side. If you're going to open up the right side, you just do it, lift up your thumb. If you're going to open both, you keep your two fingers up here and just lift both fingers off the nose. Okay. So let's start. We're going to do this breathing into the count of 4, holding our breath for the count of 4, and breathing out for the count of 4, dropping your shoulders as you exhale. So let's start by blocking your right nostril. Open up, lift up your ring finger so you're opening your left, and breathe in through your nose for a slow count of 4. Then block both nostrils, gently put your ring finger back, and hold for the count of 4. Now open up your right side and exhale through the right for the count of 4, and drop your shoulders at the same time. Now we're going to reverse it. So keep your finger on the left nostril, inhale through the right for the count of 4. Block both and hold for 4. And out through the left for the count of 4 and drop your shoulders. Now open both nostrils and inhale through both to the count of 4. Lock them, hold for 4. And open and exhale through both for the count of 4, dropping your shoulders. Now that is one cycle. In the left, out the hold, out the right. In the right, hold, out the left. In both, hold, out both. That's one cycle. So we're going to do this now 5 times, slowly. Now, roughly you could do it 1 count per second, but if that's not comfortable for you, if you're short of breath for any reason, count a little faster, or if you like to count a little slower, do it that way. So I'll let you know when my 5 cycles are done, and it may not exactly coincide with yours. But just remember, each time you exhale, drop your shoulders down, because that is a very good way to relax your body and therefore your thoughts. Okay, so 5 times, 5 cycles. And I've completed my 5. We'll just wait, finish the cycle that you're in, and then put your hands down and sit quietly. Okay. Now let's just sit quietly for about 30 seconds, noticing how you feel, keeping your shoulders down, and notice if you feel balanced, calm, relaxed. No matter what practice you're doing, it's a good idea to sit at the end for about 30 seconds to a minute before you jump up to do your next activity, because it can be extremely jarring to your system, especially if you've done something to help you calm down and relax, if you leap up and go on to the next. So always sit quietly. Doesn't matter if your eyes are open or closed, but I recognize how important that is. I'm going to have Janet send you written handout for this and also for the meditation that we'll do. So you don't have to take notes. Somebody just put something in the chat about wanting to repeat. It's in this particular practice, we've done breathing into the count of 4, holding to 4, and out to 4. This is a variant of some of the alternate nostril breathing practices. But you will get a written handout. Janet has them already, and she will send them out sometime in the next day. Okay. Now, I mentioned about doing and being. Yesterday, my husband and I went for a walk in the big park that's right next to where we live. And it was so beautiful with the golden light from the fall and the 50 zillion squirrels, and it was like 72 degrees. I live in Denver. This is a little bit seasonably too warm for now. Anyway, it was just so lovely. We said, we don't want to go back in. So we just sat. We said, this is the time to be. We found a nice bench in the sun and just sat. And it was delightful to be able to like turn off your busy, active mind and just be in the present moment, appreciating what was around. So this is a very nice mindfulness practice that we're going to do now to shift from the doing to the being mode. Now, being able to recognize and disconnect from patterns of repeated negative thought is a basic skill of mindfulness. And by choosing where we'll put our attention and our awareness and how we'll do it, we can change gears mentally. And that can happen pretty fast. Now, in being mode, your mind has nothing to do, nowhere to go, can focus fully on being in the present moment by moment experience, be aware of what's happening right now, whatever it is. But there's a tendency for most of us to enter the doing mode, the active thinking mind mode, even when the present, even when you're trying to do the being mode, where your present moment is boiled down to a focus, like, what does this have to do with what I should do to reach my goal? And that's not what being is about. Being is just being right in the present moment, recognizing everything that's coming in wherever you are. Okay. Now, the same way, you can't be in forward and reverse gears in a car at the same time. So if you find that your mind is racing or you're stressed out, going into being mode, even for a couple of minutes, is a very nice way to just sort of break the sensory overload and break the cycle. We need to balance being and doing in our lives. And we can learn to switch out of automatic pilot by bringing our awareness to the present moment. That's the focus of mindfulness meditation, but of every other meditation, every other tradition. It's where you put your attention. Right now, all we have is the present moment. If we're worrying about something that's going to happen, we're thinking about the future, you're not fully in the present. If you're going over what happened in the past, whether it's traumatic or ordinary, you're not in the present moment, your mind is there somewhere else. So being in the present is very important, and it shows you that you have a choice. And this is often the first step in taking care of ourselves differently, especially when things are not going well. Okay, so let's start this practice the same way. Sit in a chair. This one I don't think you should do standing. Sit in a chair, uncross your feet. If it's okay for you, you can close your eyes or you can do it with them open. Doesn't matter. Rest your arms either in your lap, on the arm of a chair, table or desk, but someplace where it's comfortable. Okay, so this practice has two parts. The first one is connect with your thoughts. And you're invited to take a few minutes, which we're going to do, to think about your feet without looking at them. What thoughts come to mind when you think about your feet? Perhaps there are judgments about your feet, how much you like them, how much you dislike them. Perhaps there are thoughts about how you'd like them to be different. Maybe thoughts come to mind about the places your feet have taken you, and perhaps thoughts about problems they may have caused you. What thoughts come to mind for you? There's no need to control your thoughts in any way. Just let the thinking unfold naturally. Take your time. Let's take a couple of minutes now simply to let thoughts arise. And if thoughts come into your mind that have nothing to do with your feet, don't get upset at yourself. Just recognize it and go back to thinking about your feet without looking at them. Okay. Now for the second part of the practice that's called shift into being. So I will invite you to gently bring your attention down your legs into your feet, sensing your feet directly without looking at them. Allow your awareness to sink into your feet and fill them from the inside to the outside. Be aware of the bones and right out to the surface of the skin. Perhaps sensing the many small bones within the feet. Maybe feeling the sensations of touch on the skin, the sensations in the soles of your feet. The sense of touch and pressure where your feet make contact with the floor. Perhaps exploring with your awareness, with your attention, the boundary between your feet and the floor. And now, if you will, clenching your toes, drawing them in as close as you can, whether you have shoes or if you're barefoot, doesn't matter. Being aware of the sensations in the toes, the soles, and the body of each foot. Directly sensing the pressure in the toes, feeling the tightness in the muscles, the coming and going of sensations throughout your feet, ankles, and legs. And now, just relaxing the toes, keeping the awareness in your feet, and noticing any changes in the sensations in the feet and toes as they relax. And now, keeping your feet on the floor, take a few moments to scan your body as a whole. Just tune into your feet and legs briefly. Now move your attention up through your thighs to your pelvis. Feel the weight of the chair on your butt. Notice the sensations in your abdomen. Now moving up to your chest. Be aware of the movement of your chest as you breathe, and possibly the movement of your belly too as you breathe. Feel your shoulders, and if they're tense, let them drop down and relax. Notice the feelings in your hands and your arms. Check out how your back feels against the chair or in the air if you're sitting on a mat. Notice your neck, your face muscles, your scalp. And now just sweep down your body from the top of your head to the bottom of your feet, just tuning into how you are in general in this present moment right now. Now become aware of yourself in the chair. Feel your feet. Might wiggle your toes and fingers a little if you want. Take a deep breath. And as you breathe out, slowly open your eyes and come back here and sit quietly.
Thank you, Dr. Yeager, for this delightful experience.
The last thing I would like people to do just for a couple of seconds is try to notice if there was any difference when you were thinking about your feet and when you were actually in there, feeling them in the very present moment. I mean, I noticed a difference in myself, and you don't have to talk about it, but just be aware. And again, both of these handouts will be sent to you. You can do them as often as you like. They're safe. If you want to teach them to someone else, that's okay too. Just don't do it when you're driving. Okay, thank you for coming.
Thank you so much. It's actually gorgeous outside where we are here in the district. I hope everybody gets out and spends a little bit of time. It's a little longer weekend, Columbus Day on Monday. So Janet, as the routine has it, who do we have next Friday?
I am looking that up right now. Next Friday, we will have Niall McFarland and Cynthia Powell.
All right, all the regulars. That's pretty clear. All right, very good. So we'll see you all then. Enjoy the weather before it gets cold again, and see you next Friday. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.